So the big question is this: how are gigging musicians like us, who don't make any money streaming, who are spending money from our own pockets, how do we treat our music careers as online businesses in a way that lets us get our music and the things we believe in out to the world, yet still remain profitable? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Jared Judge, and welcome to the Gigging Musician Podcast. What's up, gigging musicians? It's Jared, and I'm just getting back from a wedding expo, which was super successful for me. I got between 40 and 50 names, phone numbers, and email addresses of people who are interested in possibly booking me or one of the groups that I work with for their wedding, which weddings pay a lot of money. So I want to tell you why I was so successful and teach you a little bit about the framework that I used to get that success and get their contact information. And that framework is the hook, story, and offer. This framework was taught to me by Russell Brunson. He is an online marketer. He teaches business owners how to market their services online and offline, and this principle works in anything that you do. It's 3 parts: hook, story, and offer. And the first part, the hook, is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. How can you hook somebody in? How can you interrupt their attention from what they were doing and reel them in? So at this wedding expo, the way that wedding expos work, if you've never been in them, they're kind of like big trade shows where they've got booths of photographers, florists, videographers, caterers, and some musicians too, although not that many. More should do it though, I'll show you why. And so what happens is couples, typically the brides, statistically speaking, it's the brides, they're walking through the aisle, and then if they see something interesting enough, they will stop walking and walk over to the booth and talk to whoever's running the booth and learn more and possibly book them for their wedding. And so what typically happens is brides walk, and if you don't have a good hook to reel them in, then they will pass your booth right by. So you have to be interesting. I've discovered a great hook that really worked. It hooked probably about 90 to 95% of the people who came through. And I hooked them in with this tool, which I'm going to teach that tool as part of the training. So I can't give that away right on this podcast, but if you do the free training, you'll get that. So it's my masterclass. I'll tell you about that more later. So I hooked him in. That was the first part of the framework. The second part of the framework was the story. So the story is exactly what it sounds. Human beings tell stories. We've told them ever since the caveman era. I tell them a story, and I actually tell them a story about my own wedding, about live music, because right now the thing I want to sell them is on the idea of using live music. Most couples by default will go with a DJ because everybody else does one. It's the safe option. It might be cheaper than live music, although that's another story I tell them is why it's not as expensive as they think. So I tell them a story about my wedding. It's kind of a personal story. It involves a medical emergency that happened. So I tell them the story because I want them to be in the same emotional state that I was, and I want to connect with them because they're at their wedding. They're planning their wedding right now. They want things to be perfect. It's a very emotional experience, and I'm telling them a story from my perspective, connects with their emotions. It tells them what I went through. It shows them that I used live music in my wedding in multiple places, and then it shows them the result of that. So I'm telling them the story that by the end of that story, I should have created the belief in their mind that they need to have live music at their wedding too. And also I'm trying to break the false belief that if they book a DJ, then they can't have live music, because they can have live music and a DJ at their ceremony and reception. Typically the DJ will run the sound for the live musicians, then the live musicians perform. And then as the third part of this framework, it's the offer. I make them an offer, which is to either book my group or go ahead and get a quote. So I'm offering them a quote, showing them how easy it is to use my booking optimized page, get a quote, and then book. So hook, story, offer. That is how I got between 40 and 50 names, phone numbers, email addresses of people who are in the market for my band, my live music. And I would say it was a very successful wedding expo, particularly considering it's in the middle of a pandemic still, and I did not expect it to go nearly as well as it did. Last year I did not have this framework, and this year I did, and I got results. So hopefully it's just a quick podcast today just to share that three-step system, hook, story, offer. Hopefully it sparks some interest in you. If you're interested in taking my masterclass, go to booklivepro.com/masterclass. It's totally free. It'll teach you some of the strategies that I use to drive traffic to my booking optimized page and get people to book me and pay me nice money to play music at their wedding or other types of events. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.